Good evening, students. Welcome to a very important session on NIACL AO interviews. Welcome to our channel, and we're going to discuss various important points related to this interview in the next 30 to 40 minutes, probably more, maybe 50 minutes. So Yogi, Shivani, Healthy Experiments, Om, good evening all of you. So let's start the session. I'll just introduce myself and then we can discuss a few important points as well as discuss a few of your questions. So this is my introduction. My name is Abhishek Gaike. I have a BE in Computer Science and Engineering, a PGDB in Banking. I used to work in ICICI Bank Mumbai at its head office in the Global Markets Group. I was selected in SBI, SBH, Bank of Baroda, PNB, LIC, National Insurance, etc. I was also selected in RBI. I cleared SSC CGL, got into CSS, Central Secretariat Service with an All India rank of 49, and I have 12 years of experience in bank and SSC exams coaching. So that's my introduction. We'll start immediately with the session. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Bhargavi, Lakshmi, Vishal, Aditya, good evening guys. So this session is for those who are going to appear for the New India Assurance interviews, AO interviews, Administrative Officer interviews. This is not a general information session, very specifically only for the students who have qualified for the interviews of New India Assurance. Okay, so let's start. I'll just give you a brief overview of the kind of questions you can expect in the interview. Personal questions, this is what I'm going to focus on in this session. Of course, questions on insurance, not in depth, but yes, basic terms and definitions, maybe a few situation based questions, an important question on insurance, general insurance business, the Amendment Act, and of course questions on general knowledge, current affairs, and finally the academic part. I don't expect a lot of questions on this part in the NIACL AO interviews. Typically we see many questions on your academic background in bank interviews, especially if you're a fresher. But if you're not a fresher and you have some kind of work experience, or there's a big gap, maybe 3-4 years between your graduation and this interview, I don't think you'd be asked questions on your academics, your graduation degree. So highly unlikely academic questions, but be prepared to answer basic questions on this. So I'm going to focus on personal questions mainly, but I'll also cover a few questions on insurance, general knowledge, and current affairs. Okay, the questions have started coming in from your side. So Sneha, Vasant Kumar, good evening. Shivani, is there any batch specifically for? Yes, yes, there is a special batch on the iPratham app for New India Assurance interviews. I'll talk about it at the end of the session, right? So anyway, let's start. Now these are general questions first, questions based on your personality, profile based questions. This is what I'm going to cover in this session. So I'm going to conduct many sessions on the app, but I wanted to conduct a general session on YouTube first. So broadly, these are the 4 categories of questions: personal questions, questions related to insurance knowledge, then general knowledge, current affairs, and academics. So personal questions we're going to discuss. Let's start with the basic question. Tell me about yourself, or introduction. Now this is a very common question in bank interviews. As the camera is up there, I'm looking at the screen now. Usually the students get confused. When I start looking at the screen, they wonder where I'm looking at. So the camera is up there and the screen is down there. So anyway, I'll look at the camera now. So this is a very common interview question. Tell me about yourself, introduce yourself. This is more of an icebreaker question. So you don't need to talk about your background in detail. Especially avoid things that you've already mentioned in your application form. I mean, talking about those things in detail. I'll just give you an example, a sample answer sort of. If I'm asked this question, if I'm asked to introduce myself. So this is how I'm going to answer it. Good evening, sir. My name is Abhishek Gaike. I come from a small village called Dinwada in the Gangapur Taluka of Aurangabad district. I have a BE in Computer Science and Engineering from MIT College, Aurangabad. I graduated in 2018, and for the next 2 years, I worked as a junior software engineer in Island Software Systems, Aurangabad. I am very hardworking and disciplined. I enjoy traveling and listening to music in my free time. I want to become a successful officer in New India Assurance. That's it. I'm not talking about my family in detail. In fact, I've not even mentioned my family because the question specifically asks about you. Tell me about yourself. Introduce yourself. So separately, if I'm asked about my family, I'll talk in detail. So let's say they ask about my family. Abhishek, tell me about your family. What is your family background? Then I'll say, I'm just giving a few sample answers. This is not the reality. I'm just giving examples. Anyway, so this is how I'm going to answer it. My father is a farmer. My mother is a housewife. I have an elder brother who's currently unemployed. He also helps my father in the farm. I have a younger sister who's currently in her final year of graduation. We own 3.5 acres of land. It is not irrigated. We grow cotton and soybean in it. That's it. So I talked about my family in detail, and I also gave some information about my father's occupation. Especially if my father is self-employed, I'll write 1 or 2 lines about my father's occupation. But if he's a professional, if he's working somewhere, just 1 line. My father works as a doctor in XYZ hospital, or my father is an engineer working in XYZ company. That's sufficient. So this is how you introduce yourself and your family. Now, it's not necessary that your interview will begin with an introduction. You could be asked about insurance directly. You could be asked about your questions based on your qualification. You could be asked about your work experience at the very outset. So an introduction is not necessary, but it helps to be prepared. Okay. So anyway, that's the introduction. That's the family background. Then a very important question. So I covered these 2 questions: introduction, family background. So I'll just break it apart. I'll break down the answer and tell you what exactly you have to cover. So introduction, tell me about yourself. Introduction. Good evening, sir. Good evening, ma'am. If there are many people, you don't have to wish them individually. Let's say there are 5 people sitting in front of you, assuming it's an offline interview. There are 5 people sitting in front of you. 4 men, 1 lady. Good evening, ma'am. Good evening, sirs. My name is, not myself. Don't say myself, Abhishek. My name is Abhishek Gaike. And then talk about, if you're coming from a small town or city or village, a small place, you can mention it in your introduction immediately after you give your name. I come from a small village called Dinwada in the Gangapur Taluka of Aurangabad district. That's it. Then you talk about your qualification very briefly. Don't give out your percentage of marks, and don't talk about your college in detail or your university in detail. Just I'll give you an example. So, good evening, sirs. Good evening, ma'am. My name is Abhishek Gaike. I come from a small village called Dinwada in the Gangapur Taluka of Aurangabad district. Then the qualification. I have a BE in Computer Science and Engineering from MIT College, Aurangabad. Or you can say, I graduated in Computer Science and Engineering, or I completed my BE in Computer Science and Engineering from MIT College, Aurangabad in 2018. Just 1 line. I did not mention my marks. I did not mention my university. It's okay if you mention your university. Better you mention your college, but if you want to mention your college and university, it's fine. But you don't need to mention your marks. That's not necessary. And then after I mention then I talk about my work experience. If I'm a fresher, that's okay. But if I have some work experience, I can mention it as well in the introduction. I worked as a junior software engineer in Island Software Systems, Aurangabad from 2018 to 2020. Thereafter, I started preparing for bank exams. And then I'm talking about my qualities. I'm very hardworking and disciplined. Two qualities. Then hobbies. I enjoy reading and listening to music in my free time. And finally, because this is the NIACL AO interview, the last line would be, I want to become a successful officer in New India Assurance. If you're appearing for the SBI PO interview, you can say, I want to become a successful officer in the State Bank of India. If you're appearing for the IBPS PO interview, this last line would be, I want to become a successful officer in a public sector bank. That's it. So that's your introduction. So hobbies, qualities, etc. Okay. I'll just go through your comments and then I'll continue with the rest of the questions. Thank you, Suraj. Shivani, you could be asked about your choice of university. So you graduated from an open university. So why did you choose Indira Gandhi National Open University for graduation? Why did you pursue your graduation from an open university in the first place? And how is it different from attending a regular college? So it's not necessary that they would ask these questions. I don't think it's likely, but it's better to be prepared, as I always say. So you could be asked questions about Indira Gandhi National Open University. When was it established? What kind of system is the open university system? Is it as effective as attending a regular university or college, etc.? Yes, Vignesh, yes, a 4-year gap needs to be explained. It's a fairly big gap. So we've already discussed, Vignesh, we discussed this during our counseling session in the afternoon. So students of the interview batch, we're discussing all personal questions, profile-based questions in the counseling sessions. Almost 50% students attended the counseling session today. The remaining can attend tomorrow. I'll give you the time slots. Okay. Yes. Aditya Rajiv, you need 60% in aggregate minimum. For SC/ST, it's 55% in graduation or post-graduation exams. No idea. Banalata Sahu, sorry, no idea. Questions on your academic background could vary. For example, I'm just giving an example. Let's say you're a fresher, you're a computer engineer. You could be asked questions on cryptocurrencies, blockchains, even network topology. What is the ISO OSI model, network model? What is an NFT? What is Web3? I'm just giving examples. What is the difference between C and C++? A very basic, simple question. What is object-oriented programming? What is paging? What is multi-threading? You could be asked about cybersecurity, how computers and IT have transformed banking and finance and insurance for the better. And so these sorts of questions. I won't be able to give you questions for each specialization. So mechanical engineers could be asked questions based on mechanical engineering. So maybe, for example, what is the difference between a petrol engine and a diesel engine? What is the difference between a 2-stroke engine and a 4-stroke engine? What are the laws of thermodynamics? Explain the process of refrigeration, etc. And an important thing is, you might be asked to relate your graduation with insurance. So that's what I've mentioned, the fourth question. So this is about the gap. We'll deal with the third question first. Okay, so we've covered these two questions. Then the third question, you graduated in 2016 or 17. See, it's a big gap. You need to say that you were doing something. Even if you were preparing for bank exams or insurance exams for full time for the last 4, 5, 6 years, it doesn't look good. It reflects very poorly on yourself. What I would suggest is, you can say that you worked in some private company and then resigned and then started preparing for bank exams or insurance exams or exams conducted by IBPS, banking and insurance exams. I'm just giving you options. Or You can say that you were working part-time in maybe a small office as a receptionist, you were working in a call center, or maybe you were working in a library as a receptionist, or a study rooms. This is a very common concept in Maharashtra. I'm not sure if this concept is there in other states, but we have study rooms, or a place where these are libraries, but there are no books. You have to carry your own books. So at a study library, a study place where you managed the administration, some small job where you earn maybe 5, 10, 12,000 rupees per month, but you had enough time to study. Or maybe you were working full time and then you resigned. See, a work experience certificate is not compulsory because this position is open to freshers. So even if you've not mentioned any work experience in your application form, you can mention the same in your biodata form. That's acceptable, not a problem. Anyway, so you should say that you were doing something and then you started preparing for these exams, or you've been working all this while, and parallelly, simultaneously, you are preparing for various competitive exams. You could be asked about your work experience, how relevant it is to this job in New India Assurance. Have you learned something on the job? And why did you do that job in the first place? Why do you want to join the banking and insurance sector? Or rather not banking, why do you want to join the insurance industry? So anyway, moving on. Okay. Guys, I can't discuss very personal or profile based questions because most of you would be graduates from science or engineering fields, and a few of you are commerce graduates as well, but I can't deal with these specific questions in this common session. Please understand. I'll answer the general questions. Okay. So, yes, I'm coming to that. I'm just going through your comments. Now, why do you want to join the insurance industry? It's a booming sector. It has huge potential, especially in India. India is a very underinsured nation. If I get selected in New India Assurance as an administrative officer, I can get a very good salary, many facilities and allowances. But most importantly, I will get social respect. These exams are easier as compared to other competitive exams like UPSC and MPSC, State Civil Services exams, or UPSC. The recruitment process is quick and transparent and based purely on merit. And that is why I started preparing for banking and insurance exams. Don't say you were preparing exclusively for insurance exams. They won't believe it. You can say you were preparing for exams conducted by IBPS, banking and insurance exams conducted by IBPS. Your preference is insurance, but because insurance companies don't advertise vacancies regularly every year, you were also preparing for banking exams, or rather banking was a backup option. But now if you get into New India Assurance as an AO, you won't need to join the banking, or you won't need to prepare for banking exams, or you won't consider joining a bank, a public sector bank, because insurance is your first preference. Now, these are all related questions. Why do you want to join the insurance industry? A common answer. But then if you're specifically an engineer, why do you want to join NIACL? So again, if you're a commerce graduate, why do you want to join NIACL? You're a biology graduate, or maybe you're an arts graduate. Why do you want to join NIACL? I was counseling a student, a candidate, a student of the interview batch, who is an aeronautical engineer. So you need to relate this to insurance. So let's say I'm a mechanical engineer. So why do you want to join NIACL? So being an engineer, first of all, I found subjects like quantitative aptitude and logical reasoning very easy to prepare. So that's why I was preparing for these exams. And my experience of mechanical engineering will be useful while working in the insurance industry, especially knowledge of automobile engineering. And you can elaborate on it. I won't get into the details, because if I start answering all these questions, if if I explain if I relate all kinds of graduations with insurance, I will probably need 2-3 hours to finish this session. So I'll discuss this on a case-by-case basis in our counseling sessions as well as our mock interviews. But generally speaking, be prepared. You need to relate your graduation with some kind of work in the insurance industry. Okay, moving on. So I'm just going through your comments. Please ask general questions, not very specific questions based on your profile or academic background, because that won't be useful for everyone. General questions, I'll give you answers. Those will be useful to everyone. Okay. Anyway, and again, how will your academic knowledge be useful while working in NICL? I remember one of the candidates that I spoke to a few days ago was asked this question, that you're an arts graduate, and I think he had pursued an MA in psychology. How is it relevant to, not MA in psychology, MA in public administration, something, I don't exactly remember the specialization, and he was asked, how is it relevant to your work in the insurance industry? And don't you think you've wasted your education, wasted your degree? You have to give a very good answer to such questions. So I can think of a simple answer to this. No, sir, knowledge is never wasted. Whatever I've studied during my graduation will definitely be useful sooner or later. Maybe some years down the line, at least some of it will be useful. I know it doesn't look as if it's directly relevant to my job here, but I am sure whatever I learn, at least some part of it will be useful. You can, if you're an engineer or maybe even a plain graduate, you can add something else as well. During my graduation, I learned a lot inside the classroom as well as outside the classroom. I participated in many extracurricular activities. In fact, I was the cultural secretary in my final year of graduation. During these 3-4 years, I developed my communication skills, my interpersonal skills, my leadership qualities. I am sure all these qualities and skills will be useful in the insurance industry or any other company or industry that I work in. So you have to be very convincing, you have to be very confident, you have to sound enthusiastic and very positive. So this will take practice. It's easier said than done. During the actual interview, I know most of you are very nervous, anxious, and if you come across such a question and you don't have a proper answer, if your graduation has nothing to do with insurance, it does become difficult to sort of correlate or relate your knowledge, your academic knowledge, to insurance. But with practice, with a few, probably a few, I don't know, tactful answers or sentences, you can successfully satisfy the interview panel. So we'll discuss these points in our personal interaction sessions, because it's very difficult to relate each type of graduation with insurance in a very general YouTube session. Okay, so please be patient. We're conducting many such sessions in the next few days in our interview batch, and I'll make sure that you're satisfied and you get enough practice. Anyway, moving on. Yes, an important question by Augie. Bilingual. See, the interviews are conducted in English or Hindi, or maybe a combination of these two languages. You're asked for your preference. You can choose to appear for the interview in English or Hindi. The questions could be asked in English or Hindi, but you are free to answer those in English or Hindi. Sometimes questions are also asked in the local language. I remember a few years ago, one of my students was asked questions in Marathi. The interviews that were conducted in Mumbai, it seems all the panel members could understand, could speak Marathi. So he was asked questions in Marathi and he answered those questions in Marathi. So it's quite likely, let's say the interview session is conducted, the actual interviews are conducted in Chennai. And you could be asked questions in Tamil. Provided you can speak the language, you can understand and speak Tamil, you should answer in the same language. So if I'm asked a question in English, I should answer in English. If I'm asked a question in Hindi, I should answer in Hindi. If I'm asked a question in a regional language, I should answer in the same language, provided I can understand and speak the language. In case I'm not comfortable replying in English or Hindi or any other language, I should ask for permission. If I'm asked a question in English and I can't reply to the same in English, I should ask for permission. Sir, may I please answer this question in Hindi? Or if you're asked a question in Hindi, you ask for permission first. Sir, क्या मैं इस प्रश्न का उत्तर English में दे सकता हूँ? Then you ask this question, you ask for permission in the same language. And then once the permission is granted, you continue giving your answer in the language that you're comfortable in. Okay, yes, there is a biodata form. Yes, there is a biodata form that you would be provided. You have to fill up that form, give your information. You can mention your work experience as well, even if it's not mentioned in the application form. A work experience certificate is not compulsory, but if you're working in a government organization, a government of India or a state government company or a government department, you need an NOC from the department or the company. Healthy experiments, yes, we're coming to situation-based questions later. So, okay. So this is the first slide, basic questions. Then, please visit the NIACL website for answers to these questions. What do you know about NIACL? What are some of the products offered by NIACL? So go to the website of New India Assurance, click on About Us, read whatever is given there, try to memorize at least the main points so you can talk about NIACL at least for 20, 30, 40 seconds, 30 to 40 seconds. It was established by Dorabji Tata, Sir Dorabji Tata. It was established in, I think, 1909, and it is completed 1909 or 1912. I'm not sure. So it has been in existence for more than a century, and it is present in 28 countries. It has these many offices. So you can give these numbers as well to show that you know about the company. And then what are some of the products offered by NIACL? Again, available on the website. I'll be sharing the links to these in our WhatsApp group. So ideally, you should have visited the website many days ago on the 4th, 5th or 6th of Jan, immediately after the declaration of results. But if you've not checked out the website, please go to the website, About Us, go to read up everything that's given about NIACL, the structure of the organization, and also check out the products, various insurance products, health insurance, motor insurance, marine insurance, insurance under the government schemes, Fasal Bima Yojana, and then fire insurance. NIACL also offers standalone terrorism insurance. There is a terrorism insurance pool, and beyond that, if it's more than 2,000 crores, companies can purchase standalone insurance. So I'm not sure if you're aware of this concept of an insurance pool, terrorism insurance pool. The maximum is 2,000 crores, the coverage, that is. But if companies need more coverage, then they can purchase standalone insurance, a terrorism insurance. So that is also offered by New India Assurance. Then what is the job profile of an AO in New India Assurance Company? We already discussed this in our Google Meet session. We've already discussed this in the group, WhatsApp group. But very briefly, an AO is a generalist. Administrative officer is a generalist officer. The job profile of an AO primarily involves underwriting policies. Now, the nature of the work would be different depending on the kind of department he or she is placed in. So there are various offices, micro offices, regional offices, divisional offices, maybe even the head office in Mumbai. So depending on the department, the office that you're working in, your work would change, your job profile would change. But mainly if you're posted in a branch, underwriting, There are various departments in New India Assurance. You could be posted in the co-insurance section, where New India Assurance, along with some other insurance companies, offers insurance products. So there are many things I can talk about, but very briefly, generalist, mainly underwriting, but then again, it depends on the job, on the department and the office that you're posted in. So there's no one right answer. You could talk about the various departments, you could talk about the different kinds of offices and the different kinds of work. I've added a few of my students from who are now currently working in New India Assurance in our WhatsApp group, and they will talk about this in detail, okay, in the subsequent sessions. Okay, 19.9. I just saw your comments. I wasn't reading the comments, sorry. Now I'm reading the comments. 1919. Okay, so more than 100 years, 102 years. Okay, 28 countries. Yes. Okay. We'll cover insurance knowledge in some other session during our interview batch. That will be covered by Nikhil sir. I'll be dealing with interview questions, general questions, profile-based questions, questions on your, personal questions, questions on your background, but specific insurance questions will be covered by Nikhil sir. Insurance, general knowledge and current affairs. Okay. Now, I don't know if you would be asked this question. This question was asked in some interview conducted many years ago. In interview conducted by a general insurance company. I think Oriental Insurance. One of my students is, in fact, many of my students are working in various insurance companies, and I spoke to one of my students a few days ago who's currently working as an administrative officer in Oriental Insurance, and he was asked this question in his interview. Why do you want to have a career in general insurance? Why not life insurance? Why not LIC? Now, there's nothing wrong with working in life insurance. You can't say life insurance is better than general insurance. In general, you would like to have a career in the insurance sector, in the insurance industry. There is a lot of scope for insurance to grow, for insurance coverage in India. Fewer than 5% Indians are covered under insurance. And therefore, there is a lot of scope for expansion, especially in general insurance. India does not have a social security net. So health insurance, accident insurance, and there are other products offered by general insurance companies are very relevant. They're useful, pertinent for many Indians, especially Indians belonging to the middle class or even poorer Indians. That's why government has come up with many insurance policies for people below a certain income level. So Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, it's the largest health insurance scheme in the world. Then for farmers specifically, Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. So you could talk about the relevance of insurance, the need for insurance in India, the scope for expansion of insurance, and how professionals in the insurance sector have a bright future ahead. And you can talk specifically about public sector insurance companies, New India Assurance in particular, and you get a good salary, facilities, allowances, social respect, and at the end of the day, you are happy that you are in some way, people are safe, secure, because you did your job well. So indirectly, you're contributing to the society, to the nation. Whether you're working in LIC or general insurance, you are contributing to the society. People are sleeping well because of what you do. So this is a slightly philosophical take on things, but yes, it's true. General insurance, generally speaking, is a good thing for the society, especially for people who belong to the poorer classes, to the middle class. Insurance in general is a good thing. For everyone it's a good thing, but in particular to people it's useful for people who cannot deal with unforeseen expenses, people belonging to the middle class. Anyway, uh, hold on a second. No, not public. Sorry. So why public go for private insurance? Yes, a very good question by Healthy Experiments. Why people prefer insurance from private companies? Why not public sector companies? Very important question. So you can talk about aggressive sales and marketing tactics, target setting, a large network of agents, a very beneficial commission sharing structure in private insurance companies. So generally, private companies are aggressive. They have innovative strategies for sales and marketing. Their agents push their products aggressively, and typically they earn a lot of commission. These agents by pushing certain policies, and there are things unethical. They follow, sometimes they follow certain unethical means to track customers. So working in a public sector general insurance company, you wouldn't have to resort to unfair means, wrong tactics to attract customers. Of course, you would need sales and marketing strategies, but generally speaking, you can be very ethical and ensure profitability for the company, because ultimately if a public sector company profits, the government profits. Uh, at the end of the day, the people profit. So you're contributing to the economy, to the country, to the society, and that's why you want to work in an insurance company, a public sector insurance company. I'm giving very general answers. We'll deal with the specifics later. But a very good question nonetheless. Uh, Sumit, if your father is working in LIC, of course, the first question would be, why don't you consider working in Life Insurance Corporation? Why do you want to work in general insurance? See, LIC hasn't come out with vacancies for generalists. LIC hasn't come out with the AA vacancy for quite some time. So this is a good opportunity. In LIC, the entry level officer post is assistant administrative officer, whereas in general insurance, the entry level post is administrative officer. After promotion, you become an assistant manager. Then after 3 years, you become a deputy manager. So anyway, of course, Abhay, if you're not comfortable with English, you can switch to Hindi. You can request, as I said, sir, may I please answer this question in Hindi? Most probably they'll say yes, please continue, and then you can answer in Hindi. I don't think that would be a big problem. But generally speaking, I think you have a slight edge if you can speak fluent English. Slight edge. You can appear for the interview in Hindi, but generally speaking, again, there could be exceptions. What I have observed, my own experience, as well as the experiences of my students, hundreds of students who have appeared for interviews, bank interviews, as well as insurance interviews, I think that if you can speak fluent English, if you can appear for the interview in English, if you can give proper answers to the questions in English, then you have a slight edge. Whether that edge would translate into actual marks, I don't know. I don't know. I think so, but I'd still say I don't know. Anyway, yes, in 2020, 2021, there was no recruitment. Even in 2019, there was no recruitment for AO generalists in LIC. And that's why I would prefer working in NICLAO. But then you could be asked, then if in case LIC comes out with a vacancy for assistant administrative officers, would you leave this job in NICL and join LIC? It's not a very likely question number 3 that we're discussing, but if in case you're asked this question, you should be able to give a satisfactory answer. Anyway, so moving on, this is very important. Privatization of public sector insurance companies. What are the pros and cons of privatization? What if NIACL is privatized? These are all related. So first of all, you would like to work in a public sector insurance company, that's okay. But if NIACL is privatized, what will you do? Will you leave this job? And what do you think about privatization in general and privatization of insurance companies in particular? Now, what I advise is, see, most of the people who are conducting these interviews, in fact, all of them are from insurance companies, from NIACL in this case. It's likely that there would be a psychologist or maybe someone from the armed forces background. But generally speaking, people who conduct these interviews are from that particular organization. So all 5 people would be from New India Assurance. It's highly likely. So if you say yes, privatization is good and there are no disadvantages of privatization, those people might get offended. I'm not saying criticize the government. You can criticize the policy of privatization. You can say that privatization is not a panacea to all these problems faced by insurance companies or banks. Rather than privatizing all insurance companies or even banks, the government should keep at least a few companies in the public sector. The government could consider privatizing a few companies, but privatizing all general insurance companies is not the solution. In fact, it would be detrimental to the interests of the common public. So it's in the interests of the public, of the country, to have at least one public sector company in the insurance sector, in the general insurance sector. Why? We'll discuss this in detail later. So this will again be discussed by Niacl sir. I'm briefly touching upon this subject, but you have to say that privatization is not a solution to all the problems faced by the insurance industry or the banking industry. A limited privatization to a limited extent is okay. So for example, government is listing LIC. Maybe the IPO of LIC would be out in the next financial year. But the government is not selling off LIC. It's not privatization. Disinvestment is okay, but still the government should maintain control. In this context, you can talk about the General Insurance Business Nationalization, the Amendment Act 2021. And what are the provisions of this amendment, and how are those provisions going to affect the structure of various insurance companies? How are those provisions going to facilitate the privatization of general insurance companies? Yes, of course, Shivani, you can say your first preference was always NIACL or is NIACL, but why? You have to give reasons. Because my first preference has always been general insurance, New India Assurance in particular, because, and then you give 2-3 reasons for the same. Yes, there is a bond. So we can discuss about the joining formalities, the bond and everything after you are selected in New India Assurance. Right now, focus on the interview. Okay. Good answer, but I don't think, Vishal, you should say this. Sir, I'm unemployed. Vishal says, sir, I'm unemployed. That's why I'm pursuing the insurance path. That's not a good answer in the interview. You'll have to be a lot more creative than that. Yes, anyway, moving on. Now, questions related to your hobbies, self-explanatory. Suppose you're interested in cricket, you could be asked questions on the T20 World Cup, India's performance in the World Cup, one-day internationals, T20s, or maybe you could, maybe about particular specific players. So if you say Virat Kohli is your favorite cricketer, why is he your favorite cricketer? And stats, you could be asked statistics about Virat Kohli. How many one-day internationals has he played? How many runs has he scored? What is his batting average? Has he ever bowled in matches? And what is his bowling average, etc. So questions like these. So in case you're unable to answer certain technical questions, I had that experience. Many years ago, I was asked about cricket. I said I like watching cricket, and I was asked something about cricket and I wasn't able to answer that question. And the person who was conducting the interview said, Abhishek, you said cricket is your hobby, but you can't answer this question. And I said, sir, cricket is my hobby. I don't intend to pursue it professionally, and I don't intend to memorize all these facts and figures because it takes the whole joy out of the game. Cricket is my hobby. I like watching cricket as well, and I enjoy watching these matches. I don't enjoy memorizing these numbers, stats. Even if the opposing team scores well, if the opposing team plays well, I appreciate good cricket. And I did not specifically mug up numbers for this interview. I gave this answer very clearly. I said I did not mug up certain numbers, facts and figures just because it's my hobby, just for this interview. And he smiled and asked some other question. And I scored decent, in fact, very good marks in that interview. I don't think it has an impact on your interview performance. If you're very honest, you can say, well, it's a hobby. I don't know these things. I've never pursued it professionally. And in fact, trying to get into the technicalities takes the whole joy out of it. So I've never done it and I don't intend to do it. That's it. Okay. What will you do to increase? Yes, an important question. What will you do to increase insurance penetration in India? Many things. Now, basically, this job does not involve any kind of canvassing, sales and marketing. You're an administrative officer. Most of this work, sales, marketing, is done by the agents. But in case you're asked about this, you can say not particularly what will you do, but what should the companies do to increase their business. You can talk about free seminars, conducting seminars in smaller cities and towns, in villages, providing information, timely information on the website, proper information on the website, having an active YouTube channel where information about various insurance policies, concepts related to insurance is given. In fact, this is a very good idea. If anyone from New India Assurance or any other insurance company is listening, please have an active YouTube channel where you provide information about insurance, various insurance policies in general, and then specifically policies issued by your company. I'm sure that will be a very good funnel to get customers. So use of social media, conducting seminars in various towns, cities, district places, taluka places throughout the country, profit sharing to a greater extent, sharing profits to a greater extent with the agents and people in general. You could have, instead of in addition to agents, you could have people who bring in business and you simply share the profit on a commission basis. So apart from the agents, you could have these people who bring in business, and they wouldn't be full-fledged agents, but they might get some commission based on the business that they bring to the company. So you can give many, you can mention many things. You can give a lot of advice regarding this. I'm not an expert in insurance. I'm just giving you, telling you ways off the top of my head. Maybe you need to talk to an expert regarding this. But this much is sufficient. You're not expected to be an expert in insurance. Just general things. Then that's it. Okay, so I think I've covered all your comments, answered your queries. Then this is very important. In almost all the interviews, in fact, I spoke to almost a dozen candidates who appeared for insurance interviews in the last few years. And almost everyone said that they were asked this question: are you willing to work anywhere in the country? Will your parents, especially to girls, this question, will your parents allow you to work outside your state? And what if your husband or in-laws don't allow you to work in a far-off place, outside your state, etc.? So first of all, are you willing to work anywhere in the country? Yes, of course. This is an answer that's similar to what I give for bank interviews. So let's say I'm a candidate, I'm from Maharashtra, and I'm asked, Abhishek, are you willing to work anywhere in the country? So I'll say, yes, of course, sir. I was born and brought up in Maharashtra, in Aurangabad city. I've spent the first 25 years of my life here, assuming I'm 25 years old. And I spent the first 25 years of my life here. I would love to see the rich diversity that our country has to offer. India is such a diverse country with different cultures, customs, cuisines, traditions. So I will welcome this opportunity. In fact, if I'm selected, my first preference would be to work in a state other than Maharashtra. So you have to sound enthusiastic. Maybe once you get selected, you can request for a posting in your home state or even your home city, your hometown. But during the interview, you should say that you're open to relocation. And will your parents allow you to work? So especially girls are asked this question. So you can say, of course, sir, my parents have always encouraged me in whatever endeavor that I've undertaken. So I completed my graduation from a city nearby. I come from a small village, or I belong to this small city. I was born and brought up in this town, and for my graduation, after my 12th standard, I went to this XYZ city. And my parents, I've lived independently for the last, I've been living independently for the last 3-4 years. And my parents have always encouraged me to be independent. And when I started preparing for these exams, they were fully aware that I would probably not be posted in my hometown, and they're perfectly fine with it. And as far as the question of marriage is concerned, well, for the next 1 or 2 years, I'm not planning to get married. After 1 or 2 years, when I start looking for a life partner, when my parents start searching for a life partner for me, I would make one thing very clear. That would be my condition, a non-negotiable condition, that I've worked very hard to get this job, and I intend to continue working in New India Assurance till I retire, till my retirement. And this job involves a lot of transfers, postings throughout the country. And if the boy is ready to accept this, only then will I consider getting married to him. So you can give this answer. You won't say I will. You shouldn't say rather that I will try to convince my parents, or I will try to convince my husband, because then there is an element of uncertainty. I will try to convince, but what if he is not convinced? What if your parents are not convinced? So you should say, this is my condition. I'm going to marry someone who's okay with my job, who's okay with these interstate postings, or who's okay with a working wife. So that sort of thing. Okay, moving on. Tell me about your city, district, or state. Again, see, you should be able to speak on this for 20-30 seconds. If you belong to a small city or a small town or a village, you won't be able to speak for a long time. Then you can talk about the district. But if you belong to a big city, I'm sure you'll find enough things to talk about for 20-30 seconds. Talk about, you can mention tourist places, religious places, temples, mosques, etc. Any sanctuaries, nature reserves in and around your city. Like I belong to Aurangabad city in Maharashtra. So UNESCO World Heritage Sites, Ajanta and Ellora caves are quite close to Aurangabad city. The city itself is called the tourism capital of Maharashtra. It's called the City of Gates, and it has a historical significance, but it's also an industrial city. There are many industries here. You can also talk about agriculture in your district if you belong to a rural area or a small town. You can talk about the geographical features. So there are rivers and dams, etc. In your district, and that's it. So I think if you cover all these things, 20-30 seconds would pass by like this. You will be you can easily talk about your city or district if you cover these points for 20-30 seconds. You don't need to stretch this answer more than 30 seconds. Shivani is asking how long we should answer a particular question. Now, generally speaking, I think you shouldn't talk more than 30 seconds. But this is a very general rule. There are many exceptions. It depends on the question, really. And if you're going on and on and on, someone from the panel will stop you. They'll ask another question or ask you to stop. That's enough. So don't wait for them to stop. Don't stretch your answers. Depending on the question, I think 20 to 30 seconds is enough to answer any question. But again, if it's a situation-based question, if you're asked for an opinion and you have to explain something in detail, you can talk for more than 30-40 seconds. I mean, you might be even, for example, what do you think about privatization in general? And what do you think about privatization of insurance companies? What are your views on this? What are the pros and cons? So you can talk about this easily for a minute or so, and that's quite okay. Again, Shivani, positive note. I just read the last line. Positive note, I'm not really sure. I mean, ideally, you should exude positivity in your answers, but then again, depends on the question. Anyway, moving on. This last point. If you have work experience, why did you leave your previous job? What was your job profile there? Will your previous work experience be useful while working as an AO? So this is very important for all those who mention work experience. Why did you join there in the first place? I did not mention it there. So you graduated and let's say you started working in an IT company. So why did you join an IT company in the first place? Maybe so you can say I'm a computer engineer. A few companies came to our campus for placements and this was the first company that offered me a job. So I joined. But then why do you want to leave it? Or maybe you left several months ago. So don't badmouth your bosses. Don't badmouth your company. You can say you were looking for better opportunities, better professional opportunities. You can say that you weren't paid enough if it's a small private company. The salary was low. There weren't enough opportunities to grow within the company. There was no clear career path. Maybe there was a lot of uncertainty. Many of your seniors suggested that you prepare for government exams, competitive exams, rather than wasting your time working in a private company or where there is no clear path, career path, where there aren't enough growth opportunities, where you're not paid very well. So that's what your senior is advised. Rather than you saying that these are the problems with the company, this is what your seniors said. And maybe you noticed a few things. Maybe you weren't paid very well. But you had very good colleagues. Your boss is you had a good boss. And they were very helpful, cooperative. And one of your seniors considered you as a younger brother. And he advised that you start preparing for bank and insurance exams, etc., etc. So you shouldn't come off as a negative, someone with a lot of negativity in you. So you talk about positive things. Maybe you learned some things on the job. It was a good experience, but because of these reasons, you left. And how will your experience be useful while working in New India Assurance? Then this depends on your experience. You have to relate your experience to your work in New India Assurance Company. So again, this we'll have to take in our personal counseling sessions. We'll discuss these things later when we interact personally. Duration of the interview approximately 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes. So again, this is a gross generalization. A few candidates were interviewed just for 6, 7, 8 minutes. And I came across someone, I spoke to that person yesterday, and his interview went on for about 22 minutes. So it's a big range, but wide range rather, but generally speaking 10 to 15 minutes. Okay, Vishal, but you shouldn't say you are not enthusiastic about working in the insurance sector. In fact, if you say it now, it's okay, but in the interview, you shouldn't say these things. You should always say you're enthusiastic about working in the insurance industry. No, Sumit. Uh, you are not a development officer. Okay, this is an I don't think there are development officers in general insurance. There could be. I have to be very honest. I won't lie to you. I have no idea. I know agents do most of the work, but I haven't come across any development officers working in general insurance. I know a lot of people personally who are working as development officers in LIC, but I've yet to come across anyone working in general insurance as a development officer. So maybe I'll get back to you on this after some time. I'll speak to one of my students who's actually watching this session live. I'll speak to him and maybe I'll write down in the comments section later. Anyway, moving on. So that's about your work experience. Now, I've covered many personal questions. A lot of things need to be covered. This was just an introduction. But anyway, questions on insurance as well. Basic insurance terms, definitions, one-liners. What is a ULIP? What is an endowment policy? What is co-payment? What are deductibles in health insurance? What is a deductible in health insurance? This was a question asked in Oriental Insurance interview many years ago, 3-4 years ago. AO interview. Then current events, privatization, very important, privatization of general insurance companies. That's why I mentioned this act specifically. This was passed in 2021, last year. General Insurance Business Nationalization Amendment Act. So the actual act was passed in 1972. It was amended, I think, in 2002. And in 2021, last year, it was amended again, or this act was passed, the amendment. And basically the main provision is, this amendment removes this provision of minimum 51% ownership, in a general insurance company by the government of India. So this sort of paves the way towards privatization. So please read this act carefully. If you can't read the act, the complete act, I've actually shared a link to a brief summary in our WhatsApp group. So please go through that summary at least. This is very important. And privatization of insurance companies. Please, we're going to discuss these things in our insurance session covered by Niacl sir. But on your own, please go through these things. We're going to have a session tomorrow for insurance. But if you have time, please do it yourself tonight. Anyway, then government insurance schemes. There are many government insurance schemes. Please go through these schemes. Again, we'll be covering this in our insurance sessions in the interview batch. So, Fasal Bima, the most popular, or rather the most well-known. Then Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, the largest health insurance scheme. Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana is the largest agriculture insurance scheme in the world, and as far as I know. And Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana is the largest health insurance scheme in the world. Not situation-based schemes, situation-based questions, not schemes, sorry, that's a typo. Situation-based questions, for example, you're working as an administrative officer in New India Assurance. What will you do as an AO to increase the profits or to increase the business of New India Assurance? Or how will you popularize the concept of insurance among the general public? You could, a personal question could be, do you have insurance? Do you have health insurance? Do you have life insurance cover? Does anyone in your family have insurance? If yes, why? Why that particular company? Why that particular policy? If no, why? You're appearing for the NIACL interview. Don't you think you should have insurance as well? So be prepared to face such questions. Not all of you would be asked such questions, but generally speaking, be prepared to answer these questions. No, Purushottam. I am not in a position to predict the dates. I have spoken to a few of my students and they've given me an idea. They've given me a range, a date range, but I don't think I should say this on a public forum like YouTube. Maybe in a WhatsApp group, or maybe when I'm interacting with you personally in our Google Meet sessions, I'll give you the date range. But be prepared. Be prepared for online interviews as well. If the COVID situation doesn't improve, you might have to appear for the interviews online via Google Meet or Zoom or any other medium. No, hand gestures not a problem. If it's natural, if your hand gestures are natural, it's okay. But if you're saying something and your hands are saying something else, it does look a bit odd. But if it's natural, I don't think it's a problem. The hand gestures won't be a problem. See, situation-based questions take a long time to answer. I mean, your answers are long. They're long descriptive answers. So you could be expected to speak for almost 30, 40, 50 seconds. And that's perfectly fine. This is the situation. What will you do? How will you deal with such people? And general questions, your opinions, as I said. What do you think about privatization? So these questions require long answers. Anyway, then GK and current affairs, common, see, farm laws, farmer protests, cryptocurrencies, rising fuel prices, social media, questions on COVID-19, Omicron, many other things. This is just an indicative list. There are many other things that need to be covered. I'm assuming that you're well read because you've cleared the prelims as well as the main exam. So you're well read, you are aware of what's going on around you. So you need to form your own opinions. So what are the farm laws? Why were the farmers protesting? What were the pros and cons of these farm laws? Talk about cryptocurrencies, NFTs. What are cryptocurrencies? What are NFTs? These questions could be asked to engineers, computer engineers, IT graduates. Rising fuel prices. Why are fuel prices rising? How do they impact the economy? Have they had an impact on your life personally? Then social media, again, pros, cons. The Pegasus row, if you've heard about it, you could be asked about it. What about Pegasus? I think this was a question asked in the IDBI PGDBF interviews. One of my students was asked this question. Social media, privacy, and then have you heard about Pegasus software? What was the issue all about? And luckily, she knew about it and she spoke for a few seconds, maybe 10, 15 seconds, more than that, I think 20, 25 seconds about Pegasus software and what this whole confusion or rather row is all about. So she spoke for about 20, 25 seconds and she was selected, she cleared the interview, she was selected for this IDBA PGDBA program. So I'm assuming her answers were good. So it's better to be prepared. Think of all the things going on around you and think of all kinds of questions that could be asked about these issues, on these issues. Okay. Okay, Vishaka says, yes, Vishaka, thank you, Vishaka. Vishaka's father works as an agent for LIC as well as New India Assurance, and Vishaka knows a lot about insurance. So I was actually hoping that you would answer this question, Vishaka. Thank you. So yes, there is a post of development officer in New India Assurance, but I don't think they recruit from the open market. They recruit freshers from the open market for this post. So I don't know how you become a development officer in New India Assurance or a general insurance company. Maybe the agents are recruited as development officers, not freshers. Anyway, so moving on. We're going to end this session now. I have so much to tell you, but unfortunately, because this is a very brief session, YouTube session, I actually conducted a free session day before yesterday as well on Google Meet. So I discussed a lot of questions in that session, almost a 60-minute session. This has been like a 75-minute session. I've covered many things, but there's a lot more to cover. And if you're interested, you can join our interview batch for NIACL AO. This is a special interview batch. It's not a general interview batch. You should only join this batch if you're going to appear for the AO interview, NIACL AO interview. This is not a general interview batch. This is a very specific batch. You need to download the iPratham app, join this batch, pay the fees, click on this batch first, pay the fees, start attending the interview sessions. We're going to start the lectures from tomorrow. I have already started the personal interaction sessions to discuss profile-based, academic background-based questions through Google Meet. So I interacted with almost 10, 15, I think 12 or 13 students today. Tomorrow again, I'm going to interact with 12 to 13 students tomorrow, and then another 13, 14 students the day after tomorrow. So these interaction sessions will be conducted throughout the week, in addition to our regular lectures on the app, in addition to the mock interviews. Mock interviews will start in a couple of days, I think. I'm not sure of the schedule, but I'll inform you in the WhatsApp group, okay? And also give you some more information during the lecture. We're not going to start mock interviews immediately. We'll wait for a couple of days. First, I'm going to discuss with you your profile, your background. I'll suggest a few questions, possible answers. You attend a few lectures, and then we'll start the mock interviews. So don't immediately appear for the mock interviews. First, you should know what exactly you should prepare for, the kind of questions you can expect. You should know these things, and then once you prepare, then you can appear for the mock interviews. Don't start appearing for mock interviews immediately. Okay? Okay, moving on. So that's it. This brings us to the end of the session. This batch, by the way, is free for iLearn and Sankalp students. If you're a student of iLearn Center, existing student, or a student of Sankalp Education, you don't need to pay any fees. Just contact Bharat sir. His number is shared on our Telegram channel. He'll add you to the interview batch. The batch will be activated on the iPratham app for free if you're a student of iLearn Center or Sankalp Education. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, you can post them as comments to this video. In case you're watching this video in the recorded form, if you're not watching live, you have any questions, you can post them in the comment section. I'll try my best to answer those questions within 24 hours. Okay, so thank you very much for attending. If you have not been added to the WhatsApp group, you can send me a WhatsApp on this number. Contact me on this number. Don't call me. Send me a WhatsApp. Ask me to add you to the NIACL AO group, and I'll add you to that particular group. That's it. Don't call me on this number. Just send me a WhatsApp. I'll add you to the WhatsApp group for NIACL AO. Okay. So thank you very much for attending. See you soon in another session. We're meeting tomorrow on the iPratham app for a lecture. Okay. Thank you very much. I've been Abhishek. You've been awesome. Jai Hind.